All right, welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be talking about AI and filmmaking.
Sounds exciting.
It is, it is. So, someone said in an article called Empowering Storytellers, the role of AI and LTX Studio in filmmaking.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, and I thought, this is perfect for our deep dive.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just to get started, one of the things that really jumps out at me from this article is this idea of AI kind of like leveling the playing field for filmmakers.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Like, if you have a great story, but you're not like a master artist, when it comes to like storyboarding or something,
Right.
um, AI can actually like step in and help you out.
Yeah, that's right. And what's so cool is that it can actually analyze the script. Like really pull out the key scenes and emotions and actions and even create, like visual representations.
Oh, wow.
And it can even reference like existing images or use something called generative models to like create something totally new.
So you're saying like you can basically see your story visually, even if you don't know how to draw.
So,
Exactly.
it's incredible.
It opens up so many doors for creators who might not have those traditional
Mhm.
skills or resources.
That's so cool.
And it's not just, basic visuals.
Yeah.
You can actually get super customized with it. Like you can really have a lot of control over, things like the color palette, the scene layouts, even like the look of the characters.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the part where things really start to get interesting for me is like being able to really tailor those visual elements to like your specific vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they talked about how AI is using like GANs and machine learning
Sure.
to really match, like descriptions and empower, like these really unique
Like
narratives.
ends, right, right.
Yeah, generative adversarial
Yeah.
networks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading about those. So like let's say you were making a sci-fi film and it was like, set in a cyberpunk world.
Hmm.
You could use AI to really create those visuals with a ton of detail and like realism. Exactly. Exactly. It's like having a digital artist who understands exactly what you're going for and can like bring that vision to life.
That's incredible. But I know these things can be pretty computationally intensive, so you probably need some serious computing power for all this.
Oh yeah, definitely. But the results are incredible.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so we've got like visuals covered, but like, every filmmaker knows you can't have a great story without like a great pitch.
Right.
And this article talks about how AI is being used to create these like really professional looking pitch decks.
Yeah, it's not just about looking pretty though. It's
Right.
about like having an AI assistant that can put together like comprehensive summaries of your story
Hmm.
and create visual mock-ups and even like map out potential production timelines.
Wow, so it's like a whole package.
Yeah, it's like having a superpowered assistant who can like instantly create these really compelling presentations.
That frees you up to focus on like the actual story.
Exactly, exactly. Plus, it probably helps you, stand out when you're trying to pitch your idea.
Oh, for sure. I mean, in such a competitive industry,
Right.
having like a really strong pitch deck can make all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. But, speaking of working together, AI is also changing how filmmaking teams collaborate.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say, like, filmmaking is such a team effort, and I'm really curious about how AI is like changing that whole process.
Right. Well, there are platforms like LTX Studio, that are using AI to handle things like version control, which is so important.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you've got all these different people working on, different parts of the film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It can be a nightmare keeping track of all the changes.
Right,
But,
right.
but AI can also help with things like automatic updates and even real-time feedback between team members.
Wow. So even if you're not all in the same place, you can still work together super effectively.
Right. It's like everyone's always on the same page.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and all of this leads to another really important aspect, which is accessibility.
Yes. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's opening up filmmaking to people who might not have had access before.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like, people with disabilities, for example.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about features like screen readers for, visually impaired individuals, keyboard navigation for folks with mobility limitations, and even speech-to-text capabilities.
Wow. So AI is literally breaking down barriers.
Exactly, and it's all powered by AI. It's really empowering people to participate in filmmaking, no matter what their abilities are.
I love that. It's about like making filmmaking truly universal.
Exactly. And speaking of empowering people, let's talk about the writers.
Yeah, the ones who like bring these stories to life in the first place.
Right. How is AI changing their journey from script to screen?
Yeah, what's happening there?
Well, imagine this. You write a script, And then, with the help of AI, you can turn that script into like a short film or even a pilot episode. You don't have to wait for a studio to give you the green light. You can just showcase your work directly to an audience.
So it's like cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. You're taking control of your own destiny as a writer.
That's incredibly empowering, especially for like new writers who are just starting out.
For sure. And platforms like YouTube and Vimeo make it so much easier to share your work with a global audience.
Oh yeah, it's like the whole world is your stage now.
It really is. It's a game changer for writers who might not have had those traditional avenues open to them before.
I love that. It all goes back to what we were saying earlier about AI, leveling the playing field.
Right.
And it's giving more people a voice in the world of filmmaking, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And speaking of voices, we can't forget about the audience, right?
That's true. That's true. Like, how is AI shaping the content that they consume?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's already playing a role in how content is curated and recommended. And in some ways, that could be a good thing, right? Like, it could help people discover content that they might not have found otherwise.
I see what you're saying, but I'm also a little bit wary of, like, the potential for AI to create these echo chambers
I see.
where people are only exposed to content that, like, reinforces their existing views.
Yeah, that's a valid concern for sure.
Right.
It's something we need to be mindful of as AI becomes more integrated into how we consume content.
Definitely. It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yeah, personalization, but also exposure to, diverse perspectives.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we've talked about a lot of the creative and, like, practical aspects of AI, but I think we also need to talk about some of the, like, the legal and ethical considerations that come with all of this.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms,
Yes,
right?
it is. It is. I mean, as AI starts to play a bigger role in the creative process, we have to start asking some tough questions.
Like, who owns the copyright?
Exactly. Like, if AI is contributing significantly to a film, who gets the credit?
Right. Is it the filmmaker, the AI developer, or like some combination of the two?
It's uncharted territory for sure.
It is.
And, the law is always playing catch up with technology.
Always.
So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out.
Yeah, and what about, like, accidental copyright infringement?
Oh, right, right.
What if AI-generated content unintentionally mimics existing work?
Yeah, that's a real possibility.
It is, and it could lead to a whole mess of legal disputes.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure.
Well, I think this is a good place to kind of pause for now.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We talked about everything from, like, storyboarding to pitch decks to legal and ethical challenges.
It's a lot to untack.
It is. It is. But there's still so much more to explore, like the economic implications of AI, for example.
Right, and we'll dive into all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
So stay tuned.
We'll be right back. So, welcome back to our deep dive into AI and filmmaking.
All right, so last time we kind of started to touch on how AI is changing, like, the business side of filmmaking.
Yeah, the money stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we talked about how AI can help with things like, creating visuals and even, like, putting together pitch decks.
Right, right.
But I'm curious about, like, the bigger picture, How's all this impacting, like, the economics of the film industry as a whole?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is the potential for decreased production costs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, AI can automate or like streamline a lot of those tasks that used to be super labor intensive or like really expensive.
So for independent filmmakers who, often have pretty limited budgets,
Right.
that could be huge.
Absolutely. Like lower production costs means more creative freedom to like experiment, take risks, tell stories that might not have been like financially viable before.
I can see how that would be incredibly empowering, for indie creators especially.
Yeah, totally.
It's almost like AI is giving them the tools to, like, compete with the big studios.
Yeah, exactly. And as more independent filmmakers get access to these AI tools, we could see a real surge in content creation outside of like the traditional studio system.
Wow, that could lead to, like, a real shift in power dynamics within the industry, right?
Sure.
I mean, we might see more competition, a greater diversity of voices, even, like, totally new business models emerging.
Yeah, you're hitting on some key points there. Like, independent filmmakers might explore new ways to like monetize their work, things like direct to audience distribution, crowdfunding,
Right.
and that could really disrupt that traditional model where, the studios have kind of held most of the power.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but I'm also wondering, what about the potential downsides.
Yeah.
Like, if everyone has access to these tools and, production costs go down,
Right.
could we end up with just like an overload of content?
Yeah, content saturation is a real concern. Like, with so much content being created, it could become even harder for filmmakers to, you know, stand out and attract an audience.
Right, right. So it's kind of like, on the one hand, AI is democratizing filmmaking, giving more people a voice.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, it's also creating a much more competitive landscape.
Exactly.
It's a pretty fascinating paradox. So where do you see all of this heading?
Mm.
Like, what does the future of filmmaking actually look like in this, like, age of AI?
It's tough to say for sure, but I think we're moving towards like a much more fluid and collaborative ecosystem.
Okay.
The lines between like professional and amateur filmmaking are getting blurrier and blurrier.
Do you think we'll see, like, more collaborations between, like, big studios and independent creators?
I think that's definitely a possibility, yeah. Like, studios might partner with indie filmmakers who are using AI tools in really cool and innovative ways,
Right.
kind of leveraging their talent and creativity. So we might see like these hybrid models emerge where studios and independent creators are like co-creating content, using a mix of traditional and AI-powered techniques.
That's a really interesting idea.
Yeah,
It suggests a future where, like, creativity and innovation can come from, anywhere, not just from within that established studio system.
totally.
But I imagine this shift also raises some pretty important questions about, intellectual property, like compensation for creators and just like the value of creative work in a world that's, increasingly shaped by AI.
You're right. Those are complex issues that we need to really think about and like grapple with as AI becomes more and more a part of the filmmaking process.
Right.
Who gets credit for a film that's been like heavily influenced by AI? How do we make sure that human creators are being fairly compensated in a world where AI can automate so many tasks?
Right.
These are questions that are going to require like a lot of thoughtful discussion and some pretty creative solutions.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked a lot about, like, the practical implications of AI, the economic implications,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of want to shift gears for a second and talk about something a little bit more fundamental: human creativity.
Okay.
Where does that fit into all of this? Is there a risk that, like, AI will eventually just replace human artists and storytellers?
I mean, that's a question a lot of people are asking, and it's
Correct.
totally understandable to be concerned about that. But I actually think that AI, if it's used responsibly, it can actually enhance human creativity, not replace it.
And I'm curious to hear more about that. Like, how do you see AI as a tool for, like, amplifying human creativity?
Okay, so think about it this way.
Uh-huh.
AI can handle a lot of those like technical and repetitive tasks that are often involved in filmmaking, right? Like editing, color grading, even some aspects of visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
And that frees up human filmmakers to really focus on those things that AI can't replicate. Things like, original storytelling, emotional depth, that ability to really connect with audiences on a human level.
So instead of seeing AI as, like, this threat, we can actually view it as, like, a collaborator,
Yeah.
like a partner that can help us kind of push the boundaries of what's possible in filmmaking,
Yeah.
but, while still preserving that essence of human creativity.
Exactly. Exactly. Like AI can help us overcome technical limitations, explore new creative avenues, and even inspire us with new ideas.
Right.
But it's super important to remember that AI is a tool, It's
Yeah.
not a replacement for like human ingenuity and artistic vision.
I like that perspective a lot. It's, like, reassuring. It suggests a future where, technology and human creativity can kind of coexist and even enhance each other.
Totally.
But as you mentioned earlier, there are also those ethical considerations that we can't ignore.
Oh, absolutely. Like as we embrace all these possibilities of AI in filmmaking, we got to be mindful of the potential risks too. Well, for example, we need to make sure that AI is being used ethically, that it's not perpetuating harmful biases or stereotypes.
Oh, yeah, that's a really important point. Like, we want to make sure that AI is actually being used to promote diversity and inclusivity,
Mhm.
not to, like, reinforce existing inequalities.
Exactly. And, we also have to be aware of the potential for AI-generated content to be used for, malicious purposes, like
Great.
spreading misinformation or creating deepfakes that could like erode trust in the media.
Yeah, those are all really valid concerns.
They are. And it highlights the need for like an ongoing dialogue and collaboration, between filmmakers, technologists, ethicists, policymakers
Right.
as we navigate this whole new landscape. We need to develop guidelines and safeguards to make sure that AI is being used responsibly and, for the benefit of society as a whole.
It sounds like we're at like a real crossroads here.
Yeah.
We've got this incredible technology with the potential to like completely revolutionize filmmaking.
Hmm.
But we also have a responsibility to like guide its development in a way that actually benefits humanity.
You said it. The future of filmmaking is in our hands. It's up to us to shape it in a way that reflects our values and aspirations.
This has been like such a thought-provoking conversation.
I agree.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole like complex and rapidly evolving topic.
We have.
But, I think we've laid a pretty good foundation for understanding the potential impact of AI on the film industry.
Yeah, we've looked at the creative possibilities, the economic implications, even the ethical considerations.
Hmm.
So now it's up to each of us to, continue to explore and engage with this technology in a thoughtful and responsible way.
Well said. Well said.
Mhm.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive into AI and filmmaking.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It really does. We'll be back with part 3 soon, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back to our final part of this deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But you know what I was thinking about? It's like, if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture here, what we're really talking about is like the evolution of storytelling itself.
It is, yeah. It's like a new chapter.
It's like a whole new chapter where like technology and human creativity are like, intertwined in ways we never could have imagined before.
Yeah, and AI is just becoming another tool in the storyteller's toolkit.
Right.
Right? It's something that can help us amplify our voices, connect with, even bigger audiences, and even push the boundaries of like what a story can even be.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like, it's exciting and a little bit like daunting at the same time.
I get that.
It's like, with all these possibilities, it feels like we're like standing on the edge of something really, really transformative.
It's a pivotal moment.
It is.
But I think the key is to like approach all of this with a sense of like curiosity and a willingness to experiment,
Right.
Like instead of being afraid of the unknown, we should like embrace it.
Totally.
And embrace the potential of like how AI can enhance our storytelling.
I like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? That kind of makes me think about like, okay, so how can we use these tools to tell stories that actually matter?
Exactly.
Like to really connect with people on a deeper level, to create art that like reflects, the human experience.
Yeah, and I think, for me at least, the answers lie in collaboration, like in open dialogue and a shared commitment to using this technology.
Right. Responsibly.
Exactly.
That's a balancing act.
It is.
Right. But, we've always, as humans, found ways to like adapt to new technologies and use them, to do good in the world.
Yeah, we're good at that.
Hopefully we can do the same with AI.
Yeah, the key is to remember AI is a tool.
Right.
It's not here to like, replace us, replace human creativity. It's to add to it.
Yeah, it's to make us better.
Exactly.
It's like, how can it make us better storytellers?
Totally.
And I think, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive here, I want to leave our listeners with this thought, like the future of storytelling is being written right now. And each of us has the power to like contribute to that story.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay creative.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this exploration of AI and filmmaking.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
We hope you learned something new and you got like a fresh perspective on this whole evolving world of storytelling.
Yeah, and until next time, keep diving deep.
All right, take care, everybody.